Hi, this is Les and Amy from the RevGenetics Podcast. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube and now on Spotify, where we do a deep dive on supplements and longevity studies.
Yeah, and today we are actually looking at a really fascinating study from 2026.
Right.
It's all about how the tiny cells deep inside our ears age and how scientists discovered a way to flip their battery chargers back on, basically to keep our hearing sharp.
It is such a cool topic because, we always just assume hearing loss is, just a normal part of getting older.
Oh, absolutely.
But this study shows it might not have to be. So let's just dive right into it.
Let's do it.
So starting with the big question, why do we actually lose our hearing as we get older? I mean, what is happening to you when you suddenly need to turn the TV up a little louder?
Well, it all comes down to these incredibly delicate, microscopic hair cells deep inside your ear.
Right, and just to be clear, we are not talking about the hair on your head.
No, completely different. These are tiny, specialized sensors. And their whole job is to catch the invisible sound waves that are just, constantly vibrating through the air around you.
And they never get a break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're always working. But the problem is, over time, these little cells just get tired. They accumulate damage from years of processing sound, and eventually they just die off.
Which is the scary part, because once they die, they are gone for good, right? Your body doesn't just make new ones.
Right. And that is why your hearing permanently fades. So the scientists in this study wanted to know why. Why do they just give up and die?
And they found two main villains here, right?
Yeah, two major reasons. The first one is pretty simple to understand. Their batteries literally just run out of juice.
Like a smartphone at the end of the day.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Every cell has a certain amount of battery juice that needs to function. And as you get older, that localized power supply just drops.
So they are running out of energy.
Right. And when that battery juice drops, it triggers the second villain.
Which is the garbage disposal breaking down.
Yes. So inside every single cell in your body, there is an internal recycling center. It acts like a biological garbage disposal to clear out all the toxic waste and junk that naturally builds up.
Just from normal daily use.
Right. But when the cell's battery runs low, that garbage disposal doesn't have the power to turn on.
Oh, wow. So not only are these tiny ear cells starving for energy, but they are also completely filling up with toxic junk.
Because the recycling center is completely offline.
It's a double whammy.
It really is. So to figure out how to fix this, the scientists set up a really clever experiment.
Yeah, this part is wild. They basically put mouse hearing cells into a Petri dish and artificially sped up the aging process.
They did. And the way they aged them was by soaking them in a specific type of sugar.
Sugar?
Yeah, sugar causes a massive amount of metabolic stress. So by using it, they could basically fast forward the clock, simulating decades of wear and tear in just a few days.
Just to see what would break first inside the cell.
Exactly. And when they looked under the microscope, they found their answer. A very vital factory part, let's call it the cell's dedicated battery charger, had completely disappeared.
The battery charger was just gone.
Entirely vanished as the cells got older and more stressed out. So it totally made sense why the battery juice was running dry. The cells literally lost the equipment they needed to recharge themselves.
Which leads to the incredible aha moment of this whole study.
Yes, the fix.
Because the scientists didn't just watch the cells die. They decided to step in and give those older, heavily damaged cells some extra battery chargers.
Right. They gave them the instructions to build brand new battery chargers.
And the result was just immediate, right? Like plugging in a dead appliance.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
By providing those extra battery chargers, the cells started making their own battery juice again. And that had this huge cascading effect.
Because it turned the garbage disposal back on.
Exactly. Once the power was restored, that internal garbage disposal booted right back up. It immediately started clearing out all that toxic junk that had been choking the cell.
So the main engine of the cell is finally running smoothly again.
Everything was back online. And the best part is, these delicate hearing cells stopped acting old. They didn't just survive that harsh sugar aging process. They actually stayed healthy.
That is just incredible.
It really is a huge breakthrough in understanding how our cells stay alive.
This episode is brought to you by RevGenetics, proudly supporting our deep dive into the latest longevity science.
They actually have a long-term focus on evidence-based natural compounds for aging research, which includes some of the most advanced NAD-boosting supplements available today.
Because, as we're learning today, keeping those cellular batteries charged is a massive part of staying healthy as we age.
It really is the foundation of it all.
So bringing this back to you, the listener, What does this actually mean for the future? Because right now, the only real option for hearing loss is getting a hearing aid.
Right, but you have to remember, a hearing aid is essentially just a tiny speaker. It just turns up the volume on a system that is already biologically broken. You were just blasting louder sound at dying cells.
Which doesn't solve the root problem at all.
Not at all. But this study points toward a totally different future. A future where medicine might actually heal or protect the delicate cells inside your ear directly.
Stopping the damage before the cells die off.
Exactly. Moving from just compensating for the loss to true prevention. If we can keep the cell's main engine robust and its batteries charged, severe hearing loss might not have to be this inevitable reality of getting older.
That sounds like science fiction, but it is actually where the research is heading. But I think we do need to inject a little bit of scientific reality here.
Oh, for sure. We have to talk about the limitations.
Right. Because as exciting as this is, this was a laboratory study. They were looking at isolated mouse cells in a Petri dish.
Yes.
And they artificially aged those cells over a few days using heavy doses of sugar.
Which is very different from human aging. Real human aging takes decades. It involves environmental noise, getting sick, and just incredibly complex physiological changes over your whole life.
The human ear is a very intricate, closed-off system. It is way more complicated than a few cells in a lab.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So translating this discovery into a real treatment for human hearing loss means scientists have a lot of biological hurdles to navigate first.
Yeah.
There won't be an overnight cure.
But the way they might do it in the future is still so fascinating.
Oh, the delivery method, yes.
Yeah, how do you actually get those new battery charging instructions into a human ear?
Well, the scientists in the study used highly specialized delivery vehicles. Basically, they took harmless modified viruses and used them to transport the new instructions safely through the cell wall.
Right into the center of the cell.
Exactly. So in a future clinical application, you could see a safe, modified virus being gently introduced directly into a patient's inner ear.
Wow.
It would carry the exact code needed to help your body rebuild those battery chargers on its own.
And you would probably want to do that early on, right?
Yeah, ideally, you would undergo a targeted treatment like that long before the hair cells suffer any permanent damage.
It just completely changes how we think about maintaining our bodies. And honestly, I think the biggest takeaway for you listening today is realizing how beautifully interconnected your whole body really is.
It changes your whole perspective.
It does. We always tend to put things in boxes. We think hearing is just about sound waves and eardrums, and that it has nothing to do with our overall metabolism.
But this research proves that is just not true. Your ability to simply hear a conversation at dinner is fundamentally tied to how well your cells process energy and clear out microscopic waste.
It is all the same system.
It really is. The exact same biological mechanisms that keep your heart pumping and your brain sharp are the ones keeping your ears listening.
So when your cellular energy breaks down, the effects happen everywhere.
Everywhere. But, there's a very optimistic side to that reality.
Which is what it was.
Well, while we are waiting years for advanced gene therapies to hit the market, the simple lifestyle choices you make today are actually making a difference.
Like diet and exercise.
Exactly. Maintaining your overall metabolic health actively protects those cellular batteries in your ears right now.
That is a brilliant point to end on. Taking care of your cellular energy today really might be the secret to keeping all your senses completely sharp for life.
It's all connected.
Well, we hope you enjoyed today's podcast on the latest published science.
Thank you for listening to the RevGenetics Podcast.
RevGenetics.com for the best longevity supplements on Earth.